Good afternoon, evening, wherever we are, it's the internet world and we all can connect in any ways we want. It is 4 p.m. in New York, and that means we are live with MarkTalk. I'm your host, Mark Levy, and I'm so unbelievably excited to be here. My life has changed a little bit since last time I had a live one. I went sequester on Monday, which blows my mind still. Like, honestly, I was crying basically all day yesterday with happiness. And shock, and also wishing happy birthday to my friend Bethany Davies, who was in my final two and is an incredible human being. And she's in New Zealand, and if she's watching right now or in the future, happy birthday. If you like what you're seeing, please press like at the bottom of the thingy, ring the bell for the subscriptions, all that good stuff. I'm working really hard to make sure this is the best channel it can be. And it's, we got some really cool things happening in October that I'll be talking a little bit more about today. Today, as you probably noticed from the little banner, it's interview day. I am unbelievably excited because I've got a dear, dear, dear friend of mine that is incredible. Like, became one of my better friends immediately once I started talking to him and realizing we're like kindred spirits. And he's become kind of like a mentor to me in the world of sequester and just a really good friend. I'm talking too much, but I'm so excited. You know him. He's one of the hosts of Podquester Mini. He is one of the original great players of sequester, and a great friend of mine, the one, the only, Louie Knowles.
Hi, friend.
How are you, man?
I'm great. Congratulations. I was wondering, was this the first MarkTalk since the win? So it is. So let me be the first guest to congratulate you on what is extremely well-deserved and long overdue.
Thank you.
Your crown. You have your crown, and I'm so proud of you for having it, because I don't think not many people have worked as hard to get it. So I'm very proud of you.
Yeah, I mean, you do know how much I fought after during every game. So I talk to you after every game, be like, hey, what can I have done different? Because you and me are similar players, but you're more of a strategic player, and I'm more of a social player, I think.
I would 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
I need tips from you in terms of social game, because that has never been my strong suit.
I think because you did play Friday, and I was telling you about this. Like, I think like what was really cool about your game on Friday is that it was like one of your most social games ever. Like, you were actually focusing on like being the Louie that we know on Podquester Mini, which everyone. because you're on Podquester Mini like 4 or 5 days a week.
Yeah, I live there. I live on.
Pretty much. But like, what is that like? Because you're definitely the person that's probably watched the most sequester.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that I love it so much. And that's like my entire, like, I've been obsessed with reality TV since I was like 12. And I, watched every Survivor, every Big Brother, all of that. And like, now it's kind of like living the dream of actually getting to talk about it. Because I would usually watch it on my own. I didn't really have any friends who watched reality shows. Like, it was kind of in my brain. And now I, found a game that I love, that I actually played and did well in, and that I can talk about.
You did really well. I never seen the full win, but like, I saw the end of your win, and like, every time I see you play, it's like you do well. Like, you don't ever do bad.
Yeah, thankfully, and that was, kind of the challenge. I watched the Rob Has a Podcast one. That was the first one I had watched. I'm like, all right, well, I might as well try, because I'm never going to get an opportunity like this after like auditioning for Big Brother and stuff and never getting on. So I was like, well, throw my hat in the ring, and then, it went well. And then I had the opportunity, after TR came up with Podquester, to join that. And then, ever since then, I don't really get sick of it. Like, obviously it's a lot, and 6 hours a night can be a lot, but by the next day, I'm always like, well, I want to watch another one. Like, I want to talk about more. It's become my routine, and I love doing it. Yeah.
It's definitely helped me so much during this whole quarantine. I watched the Rob Has a Podcast one and fell in love with it immediately. And I was like, cool, awesome. When's the next one? Oh, BB Can versus BBUS. Great. And then like, what's the next one? And my brain never processed that there were like games, even though I remember hearing Audrey be like, you can sign up, become a patron and play. But like, it didn't really process till like beginning of May for me. So
yeah.
But I mean, you're right though, like because every game is slightly different. I mean, like this week we have a cavalcade of insanely different games between like the Bowl on Monday. Last night we had the boot list, which previous MarkTalk guest Kaylee Patterson won, which I'm very happy for. And like tonight we have Love Island, and tomorrow we have a really cool mentor theme game. Then we have our patron games, which are going to be all like hot, like Halloween theme, which I'm very excited to see how those go. But yeah, you're right. It feels like different channels of Sequester, every night.
It is, and it's a combination of things. Like with the private minis, there's always a new twist on it. But then also like being a part of the community, you're either watching like your friends, competing for, and rooting for them, or you're watching new people who could possibly become your friends in the future, right? It's like
friends.
Hi, Day. Nice to see you.
Always happy to see Alex Day.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it puts another further twist on it because we are such a tight knit community, and like watching the people that you know so well as compared to, I think about that sometimes, like being an outsider. Like if I was an outsider and never played and never like communicated and just watched it like I did Survivor, like what my opinions would be. But it's so different when you're actually involved and talking to people on a daily basis and then seeing them go in and play the game. Like obviously it takes, there's much more impactful. It was more impactful watching you win. It's more impactful like when Charlie won Winners at War, because I become so close to people and getting them to get their victory. It's even more exciting to watch because you truly have a rooting interest.
It's really beautiful. I mean, I was so thinking I'll be on PodQuest that night, probably when I was at work, because that was the most brutal PodQuest I've ever been on, honestly. Nobody just a funny experience. Like, and I was like, no, oh, for every boot in that whole game,
It's true. Yeah. I mean, it really does take it. Like a lot of times I'm more affected by watching people I care about lose than I am myself. Like myself, I'm over it in 2 minutes typically, but I feel like I'm more affected when I'm truly rooting for somebody who I know has earned it and deserved it, and I want them to get there and they fall just short. I feel like that takes a even bigger toll on me anyway.
Yeah. Going back to like what you said about like watching like Survivor and stuff like that by yourself. Like for me, I watched Survivor like the first 2.5 seasons, got bored during Africa, stopped watching until a weird random occurrence happened in 2010 that got me to start watching Heroes vs. Villains right when it started, and been watching since. But like till about 2015, I never really talked about it much. Like people were like, oh, Survivor's still on. I'm like, yeah, it's still good. Like when my friend Zeke got on the show, that's when I started like watching people and like meeting people and like learning about RHAP and stuff like that, and like expanding the community that way for me.
I saw Zeke getting into an Uber one time in Bushwick, and I yelled out Zeke, and he turned around.
He's a really sweet dude. Like
that was my experience with Zeke.
Yeah, like I've known him from the comedy scene, because like we both did improv at UCB for years, and then like he actually wingmaned me a couple times, and he's just the best. Like he's just a good dude. Like I'm so happy with how his edits were on Survivor, how it's like, oh, that is Zeke. Like he's just a good dude. Yeah. Zeke is great, and I miss him, and I'm happy he's doing well in LA. I want to talk to you about New York, because it's a weird thing like that. We definitely have probably talked to each other once or twice in New York when we found out that you went to Alamo a lot. And
I've definitely seen you at Alamo in a previous life and had no idea who you were.
That's the funniest thing ever to me. Yeah,
it is. I mean, it is crazy. I kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I'm very happy living in Austin now. I never want to go back to cold weather, but I didn't realize like how many people were around me that shared the same interest. And like, if I was still in New York, probably how many more friends I would have compared to when I was there. Like I found out one of my first Sequester experiences, and this was literally the first week that Podquester existed, was 5/8. And I wasn't on that podcast. TR ran it, but Brandon Donlin messaged me and said that he had seen me the previous couple weeks ago play, and he liked my game, blah, blah. And we started talking. As it turned out, he lived 3 blocks from me when I moved from like where I lived in Bushwick before I moved. He lived 3 blocks from me, and we had no idea.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then we've been close ever since. But like there are so many people who are, I mean, it's just constant people from Brooklyn on sequester. And I was like, they were just all around me. And I never knew.
Yeah, like I just found out that Abimael just moved to Williamsburg. So like he went from Midtown to he's now close to me. I'm like really excited that when we finally get like a New York meetup together, like that I'll have like friends. I'm like, oh, you're actually a good person. Like, and it's so weird that this came out of like this community. You are from Brooklyn, right? Or
I grew up first like 17 years of my life in Flushing, Queens. Stand up, let's go Mets. And then once I moved out and got my own place, I was in Williamsburg / Bushwick the rest of the time until I moved here 2 years ago.
Nice. Yeah, like so what's it like growing up in New York? I've always wondered that. Like as a person that's very much a New York Jew, but from Miami, like what is that like growing up in New York?
It's interesting. I would say the first thing that is different from everyone else is that I never really drove anywhere ever. I never have. I do have a driver's license, but I've never really owned a car or driven because I've never needed to, having been from New York my whole life. It was a bit like I grew up in Flushing, and the thing about Flushing was that to get to any subway for me, I would have to take 2 buses. So I was kind of basically in a suburb, even though I wasn't. It was just hard to really get anywhere. Like to get to the city would take an hour to get to a subway and then another like half hour. So we're still talking like a while away from getting to any actual city point. But yeah, I mean, living in New York was different. I never knew anything else until I moved here, but I do think I prefer this way of life. I think that was a little bit too fast paced for me. And everybody said that. They're always like, you don't seem like a New Yorker at all. And I think I was probably born in the wrong place because New York is extremely fast paced. And nobody really takes the time to, for anything or anyone. And I'm not really that way. But I still love New York. I miss a lot about New York. I miss, all the things you could get. You could basically have anything you want at any time of night. And it's not.
Oh, it's the best thing ever. Like, I love, it's so great that when the subways are normal, you can actually just travel anywhere you want in the city within like an hour normally.
Yeah, absolutely. You can get anywhere. You can have any type of food. You could go to basically, any kind of bar. Like I miss that. I miss like restaurants and bars and like things to do and museums and all that stuff. Like there was always something like theater. Like there was always something to do in New York. At least there was pre-pandemic, but and it's not really that way. Even though there's still a bunch to do in Austin, it's not comparable to even Brooklyn, let alone Manhattan, I would say.
Like Brooklyn's like a whole weird beast. Like I remember like it's just so weird like walking around like the neighborhood and just seeing like a weird theater pop up in Crown Heights, Just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna pop in and see this weird stand-up comedy show or whatever. Like something is always happening in New York. And I hate the fact that people are like, oh, New York is dead now because of COVID and everything. But I'm like, nope, New York is still here. It's just we're on pause, which is a very real thing.
Yeah, it's just a little break, and it'll come back. And that is, I mean, that's above.
This is so true, though.
That is very true.
Or
from
God,
one part of Brooklyn to the other part of Brooklyn. Quite honestly,
it depends on like the trains and all that stuff. Yeah, like because I live in Park Slope, like the North Park Slope, so I'm by the Barclays Center, so I'm like near everything,
Right,
like
but like getting to like from Williamsburg or Bushwick to Park Slope, like you have to like basically
go to Manhattan.
Yeah,
or like
Hayden and stuff. It's just ridiculous. But for the most part, you can get anywhere pretty quickly, which is nice.
What was it like seeing Williamsburg change then? Because I know that you lived there while it was changing then.
Yeah. So I always say this and people find it weird, but I stick by it. I saw a difference. The first time I saw a difference was like a month after Girls premiered. The Lena Dunham HBO show. And people are like, there's no way that had that big of an impact. But I really think it did. Like from that first month and a half that show aired, I saw a significant difference in just like street traffic and like people who were around on a weekend. Because I was literally like in the heart of Williamsburg, like right on Kent, like right by where the water was. And all of a sudden, like there were more people at Smorgasburg. Like there were more people walking down Bedford, like they were ever. And I was like, huh, this is interesting. It's different. And it just came more and more and more and more. And, rent continued to increase. And then I went out to Bushwick, which I preferred Bushwick anyway, once I got there. But yeah, that was, I definitely saw the change in that time period. And I feel like Bushwick became what Williamsburg was to me when I first got there.
Nice. I want to so the way you got Sequester, was that because of watching Big Brother and being a fan of Audrey and then the RGB game, or?
The reason I initially played Sequester is a ridiculous reason.
I need to know it now.
I wanted to test my mettle in I always thought I would be good in this situation and playing these types of games. I always wanted to test myself and was never really able to. So that was the first thing. I also really wanted Kirsten McGinnis to respond to me on Twitter.
Has she done it yet?
Oh yeah, no, we follow.
Okay, because she's a friend of mine. I'm I can make that.
No, happen. I am a huge fan of hers. But prior to me being anyone, I was I had just watched her on Rava's, the Rava's podcast one, and I was like, well, that would be fun. And so I did it, and I tweeted at her, and I was like, what advice do you give to a new Sequester player? And she said, have a lot of White Claw ready to go. So I bought my box of White Claw, and then I bought my box of Capri Sun next to it because I wanted a shtick. I wanted something that would be different, that would make me stand out. And I was like, you know what people aren't doing? Drinking Capri Sun. So if
cold drinking Capri Sun's a very weird thing.
Right? It is. And I was like, if I ever make a big move, I'll just sip on my Capri Sun and it'll be a fun little bit.
Yeah.
And now it's basically become my whole thing. But that was initially why I played, to go along with the fact that obviously I wanted to win really badly. But I never thought, in my wildest dreams, I was like, maybe I'll win and, host a podcast and then train people who played Survivor to play Sequester, all these ridiculous things. I could have never thought about any of that possibly happening from playing that game. But, it's gone far beyond what I expected it could.
Was that your first game, the one that you won, the one you won, or?
So I played on a Friday, the Friday after the RHAP one.
Okay.
And I was voted out second on the even odds round.
I need to let my friend Rich know that he needs to play Sequester. He would actually be very good at it. He's heard me talk about it for a while, and I think he'd be great. And get those Squeeze-Its.
If somebody comes in as to drink Squeeze-Its, I will 100% be the biggest stan of the Squeeze-It guy. So please do that. So I played on Friday, and the second round was evens odds. Top two voters it was highest number even. Top two voters went odd. And me and Sarah Yale tied even 2 votes. And I got voted out second. And I was like, well, that's it. That's it. My entire, everything I built up to do is out the window. I've proven I'm a complete sham and I can't play the game and I'm awful. And so I messaged Audrey right after. I was like, well, that was terrible. If you have a spot tomorrow, I'd love to play again. And she responded and she said, you're in. And so I came back the next night on Saturday and I won. And the rest is history. So I came very close to not sending that message, and that would have been that, and I never would have played again. But
it's so weird how I'm so happy that you and me both had a very terrible first game.
Yeah. I didn't even know I didn't even know what happened. It was just over in 15 minutes, and I was like, really? That's it?
Mine wasn't much longer. I mean, I just got targeted for being the straight white guy with Kadir, who is not straight or white, and then taken out. But
I'm happy that's what I always preach to people when they're voted out early. It's doesn't mean a whole lot. I don't think my gameplay improved that much in 24 hours. It was literally just bad luck that, I did poorly on Friday and then won on Saturday. So it's, it doesn't mean you're a bad player just because you go out early, because Sequester is so high in the luck factor.
And if people want to read the transcript of what happened in Louie's game, it's very easy to get access to that. The Louie went, because this is before things were being recorded. There's so little footage before May of Sequester games. And literally the first time I saw your win was that your win moment.
I had not seen a single until Room Limit posted that I had never seen
Yeah.
a single second from my game. That was the first time I ever saw any recorded footage of that game.
I do have a question for you because I've always heard how insane that first Winners at War pre-gaming was, as people did not know there was going to be a Winners at War, and then it just happened. What was that like for you? I know you did very well in it. And like, what was it like going into a game where everyone is, for lack of a better word, a beast?
I was a nervous wreck. I don't think I've ever been more nervous in my life than I was that day to play Winners at War. I felt like this is my Super Bowl. This is the closest I will ever come to being on a big stage and doing what I'm good at. And I was petrified, and I did everything I possibly could to like put myself in a good position. People thought that I was, just because of Podquester and the fact that I talked to every winner, there was a target on me because of that. But I tried to like get that off. But it was surreal. The moments leading up to when the game began were completely surreal. And I kind of just like blacked out when I was in there. And it was like a whole different me, more so than any other game I played. It was just like I blacked out, and just like I remember very little from the actual ongoings of that game, other until I was like dragged out right before jury. That's the first thing I remember. But it was it was a lot. Like that week leading up, like I basically didn't work at all or do it was basically like I put my job on the back burner and just pre-gamed nonstop. And I learned after, like I did half the amount that other people did, right? Like people were on Zoom calls nonstop. Like I would just DM nonstop, but I wasn't getting on Zoom calls and stuff. But yeah, people legitimately put a ton of work into it. And I don't regret it at all. It's still, despite the fact that it was a lot of stress, I would do it again in an absolute heartbeat.
Yeah, no, like, and it was really fun watching you for the commentary for Winners at War 2, how like you read, like, because you had like your pregame interviews with people, and they just had like very candid talks with you, and how excited you were to talk about like the alliances during the game. It was really cool, even though I fucking hate pre-gaming so much, to see like how you were able to tell people what the narrative was that was being pushed, even though we couldn't see it necessarily.
Yeah,
because that game was pre-game down to like the last.
Yeah, that was pre-gamed even more than the first one, which is crazy that they managed to top it, but they tripled it in the amount that we did in the first one. Because I think, well, two things, but we'll go back. But like the first thing was that in regards to our original Winners at War, it was very apparent because there were separate factions. There were like the live players, there were the mini players, and there were the podcasters. Right. So it was very clear where those divides were and who were going to work together. Whereas in the second one, basically everybody could work with everybody, and it was not as clear cut as where those allegiances were drawn. And that's what I wanted to do in doing those interviews. Initially, the interviews were supposed to be recorded, edited, and put out like a half hour prior to.
So remember you were telling me about that, like how they were going to be like that. That's great.
Yeah, because the pre-gaming got so bad, nobody wanted to do it because everybody was afraid of a leak. Everybody was afraid that something would get out or somebody would say something, and people just didn't want to talk about it anymore. And I was like, all right, cool. Then we just won't do it. And then I still had like 8 or 9 people be like, I still want to talk to you and tell you what's happening. We just don't want it to be recorded. So I still talked to a large portion of the cast. And that in itself, I got a good gauge of what was going on and kind of had a decent idea, okay, this is probably what's going to happen in the game. And it literally went exactly how people said it was going to happen. It was, it was hard seeing some people who clearly had no idea what was coming for them. But it was just kind of like, as an unbiased journalist, I obviously didn't, I just had to keep that in and be like, yeah, well, we'll see how it goes on Friday. And it went the way I thought it would go.
I want to talk a little bit about one of my favorite things about you as a player. Is also the character of Lou. I was on Podquest when Lou was born. Did not recognize you for like 5 minutes, which is very awkward. But it's so fascinating to me that like the character of Lou was so revolutionary for the fact that like it was just you with a beard and a different personality.
Yeah. Lou was built based upon there was about a month where returning players were getting booted immediately. They were getting targeted and booted right away. And I just thought it would be like, I was like, at the point, I didn't even want to play again because Winners at War had just happened probably like 3 weeks.
3 weeks
prior.
before, yeah.
Yeah. And I just thought it would be funny. And I also wanted to be the first person to come back to do another patron mini before any other winners did. And I was like, okay, well, I wanted to do it just as a bit, and I thought I would get voted out like 4th. And I thought still everybody would laugh and it would be funny. And then I was gonna go back on Podquester and be like, sorry, I'm late, and just Lou would never be referenced again. That was the initial idea. that was the entire thing. And then TR was gonna be like, where were you? I was gonna be like, sorry, I'm late. I was golfing or something ridiculous. But as it turned out, somehow half the cast didn't know who I was, despite the fact that the beard was falling off my face. They thought it was legitimate. And I managed to go really far. The other thing that threw it off was I didn't know initially that it was an emo night. It was just I thought I was just signing up for a regular mini. And I was like, okay, well, Lou was supposed to be a country bumpkin who had never seen Sequester before. That was the initial idea behind it. And I was like, well, now it can't be that. Now I have to turn him emo. So I basically looked like Paul from Big Brother and like put makeup all over my face and wore this ridiculous black shirt and like and went with that. And so that is what progressed into turning Lou evil. And so now he's turned into some sort of like dark, like swamp man who kidnaps kids. And I don't know. It's gotten very strange. I believe he's dead now, maybe at some point. Zombie Lou.
Well, I would, like I've told this before, I would really love to see other versions of Louie. Like I remember, like the people were talking about like a drag version of you, which would be weird. But you know that's cool. But like I don't know, like I just would love like if I somehow get in our Patreon game, you show up there and you're just like basically like Lil Bo Peep or something like that. Like I don't know.
I could have a whole plethora of characters. I don't know. I mean, it's nice to see that other people have also started to do the character thing. I feel like it's become very prevalent in the last couple of weeks of people.
I mean, with Barry as Pepe and Butler as BT.
Yeah.
And Ryan Taylor with the hat.
Yeah. Andrew Donnellan. So I love to see that. I love that that's something that's been kind of started, and it's all fun. Like that's what I always say is that I try to keep in mind the fact that I want to play and I want to win and I want to do well, and I probably take this game probably as seriously, if not more seriously, than anyone else when I play. Like I pace back and forth and can't eat, and I'm a nervous wreck because I feel like my entire reputation is on the line. But that being said, I always try to remember that it's entertainment too. And I want people who are watching to be entertained, and I always want to bring a new version of myself, even if it's just me, just a new kind of me, and just try to keep it fresh and keep it exciting and be a good reality TV character. So that's what I try to do.
That's half the fun. I mean, like we are providing an entertainment, you know, especially right now with like the fact that like there isn't much entertainment happening in the traditional sense. Like we're all stuck at home, you know, and it's good that like that you provide that, you know. I want to talk about your tattoos a little bit.
Yes.
Because I know you told me that like your tattoos are like a way as an introvert to like let people know that you can like talk to. What does it say on your knuckles? I've always been curious. Like,
it's the least intimidating knuckle tattoos of all time. Be loved.
Be loved.
Be loved.
That's great.
So the story. So my parents were very like hardcore. Not so much in my upbringing, but just in general and like prior to me, were very hardcore like bikers. Like in biker gangs and very heavily tattooed and like lots of people coming in named brother and things like that. And like, so my mom was like, you should get a tattoo at like 15. She was like, you know, we can tattoo you. And I was like, you know what? Probably any tattoo I get at this age, I will regret. As it turns out, most of the things I would have gotten at like 14, 15, I ended up getting anyway. Like I have a WWF logo. I have Kermit the Frog. So really I could have gotten a probably better quality.
You have Kermit the Frog on you?
Of course, I've Kermit the Frog. Hold on. There he is.
Oh, hell yeah. That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I ended up getting all that stuff anyway. But I was a very quiet kid. I was very introverted. I still am pretty quiet, honestly, when I'm not on things like this. But like, I wanted a way to talk to people. And my thought process was that if I decorated myself in stories, that it would be an initial icebreaker, and that somebody would be like, what is that? And I would be like, well, let me tell you about Laika, the first dog in space. And like, I have a large majority of the things that I have on me are some sort of story, large majority of them sad. That was probably a miscalculation. There's a lot of very sad animal stories and things on me,
no.
but it's very, very much my brand, like sad emo kid, ended up getting sad animal tattoos.
No, you totally have you have that dog on you from like Japan that like waited for his owner, don't you?
I don't have that. I do have Jumbo the elephant. The elephant.
Oh no!
I have that. I have. There's a song called "Plea from a Cat Named Virtue" by the Weaker Thans, which is one of my favorite bands, about a cat going with its owner through depression, trying to cheer him up by like killing birds and serving it to him and being like, here's a dead bird, cheer up, don't be so depressed. But I have that on me. I have, a lot of sad things. And then up here is just like all Halloween tattoos. But
Oh yeah, you're a big Halloween guy. I forgot about that.
I am a big Halloween
guy. I forgot you're a big horror movie dude, right?
That is true.
I might have to talk to you also next month about something too. But I
saw your tweet about horror movies, and I was like, I have a recommendation.
What movie?
Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon.
I've not watched that movie in like 10 years. I would love for you to have you on that.
That's my underrated gem when I'm recommending horror movies. If people have,
it's a good one.
I always recommend that one.
Yeah, remember, because it's a mockumentary horror, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
sort of trying to be the next like Michael Myers, Jason sort of thing. Yeah.
How many tattoos do you have?
I believe 38. I think is the official count. Like, I mean, the fingers I count as one.
Right.
But yeah, like I don't have like a sleeve. I never wanted like a full sleeve. I just want lots of things, because there's a lot of things, a lot of stories that I would like shown, and a lot of things I enjoy. So I just try to like fill up empty spots. When I moved to Texas, what I didn't realize is like New York, I wore shorts for what?
Half the year?
Half of July and August, right? Not even. No, like, 2 months maybe. So nobody ever really saw my legs. Here, you got to wear shorts all the time. And I just looked ridiculous. Like I was just like covered up, and then my legs were just bare. And I was like, okay, well now I know what I need to do. So I've gotten a few on my legs, but there's still a work in progress.
All right. So I have a couple of friend questions that were submitted to me for this. I know you saw some of them on Facebook. Some of them got DM'd to me. We're going to start off with my friend Van Carew. I misspelled his name. I just realized one of two people I misspelled their names. How many hats do you own, and what's your favorite one?
That is a very good question, Van.
You have a huge hat collection.
I do. They consistently fall. I have them on a shelf, and anytime I try to get one, they all fall on me. This is a process that happens every day, and I have to put them back. I should probably get a better setup. So I started getting more during quarantine. Now, I already had a lot, like mostly like baseball hats. I always had like a baseball hat like when I was a kid. But I started getting more because I started like during quarantine when I wasn't getting a haircut. I was just like, okay, well, this is, that's that. I'll just start like shaving my head. And then I hated how it looked. And I was like, well, if I'm not going to get a haircut, I'll just shave my head and wear a hat all the time. So that is why the only reason that you always see me in a hat was because I am now doing my own hair and it looks terrible. Eventually I'll start going to the barbershop again. Maybe I won't have to wear hats as much, or maybe I'll just keep doing this forever because now it's my brand. But I probably have, I don't know, maybe like 40 or so hats.
I love your ghost hat. That's like my favorite one of your hats.
I do like that one. That's near the top. That was actually free. Can you believe it? It was a throw-in. I think my favorite. I have a lot of sad emo hats also. Shock. But it's one with a wilted flower, and it says, "You are my sunshine," and that's actually the hat that I wore when I won sequester. So
I remember seeing that now in the video. Yeah.
Yeah.
A question came in the chat. What is their passion of yours besides for sequester?
Oh, good question. So I would say the biggest thing in my life is fostering animals. That's always been my kind of thing. That was like what my first initial sequester video was about. A, because it's true, and B, because I thought it would make people like me. But yeah, ever since like from a pretty early age, I've always been an animal guy, and I worked with a foster group called Shepherd's Hope in Brooklyn, which was to rescue German Shepherds and then also other dogs. But I developed an interest in older animals because I realized they couldn't get adopted. And so I try to foster. I don't do it as much here. Mostly I do cats here because I have my dog. But that my long-term goal is to eventually like have an animal rescue for older animals to bring them in and kind of let them have a nice end to their life, because it's very hard for an older animal to get adopted just because obviously, no family wants to bring in an animal that they know is going to,
I mean, it kind of
die within the next few years.
Yeah.
So I have my dog and cat, and then I was fostering another cat that just got adopted a couple of weeks ago, Willow. So she's gone now, but I'm probably going to bring in another cat. I also may be moving within a month or so, or a month or two. So I'm kind of waiting to see. But my goal is if I can move to a bigger place, like I want to bring in as many animals as possible. At some point, I would like an area with like a backyard and be able to have like 6, 7, 8 animals and just let them kind of roam free. That's the ultimate goal.
That's cool. That's a really cool thing. Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. Molly Gallant, another friend of ours, asks, name your top 3 T-shirts.
Oh goodness, that's hard. I like.
Because you like me, you're a big T-shirt guy. Like this is what we're wearing today.
Stay home club.
Oh hell yeah!
I have some good ones. The one that just says sad songs is a hit.
I love that one.
That one's been a hit. Also very much my brand. I was told I listen to a lot of sad music. So I was in an emo band that was really bad. Very terrible when I was younger. But it was all very sad music. And I grew up on like Bright Eyes and like, all those kind of like very sad, emo, sad boy kind of things. And that's always what I've loved and what I listen to. So my sad song shirt kind of represents who I am.
I'm just going to ask this just because this just came up in chat and.
Oh, Tommy, nothing. Other Side by Kaylee Patterson, obviously. But typically I don't listen to anything that would be a bop. I feel like anything that I listen to is pretty sad. If we're going into like favorite bands and stuff, I listen to my favorite band of all time is the Wonder Years. Aaron West and the Roaring Twenties. I love Spanish love songs, like kind of like Future Teens. Like it's all like sad post emo, or also called like bummer pop. Like that's typically what I listen to. Like sad songs that sound like people are crying. Julian Baker, I love. Phoebe Bridgers, I love. I do listen to Mayday Parade. I used to listen to Mayday Parade. I love Mayday Parade. Gaslight Anthem, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, Gaslight Anthem. I actually know who they are. Yeah.
I do not, but I should get that shirt because I would definitely wear it.
That's cool. Back to the Molly question. Because that just, Oh
yeah. So favorite T-shirts. So I have another one that it was another tattoo idea, but I realized I couldn't have too many sad animal tattoos. Like then it's just overloaded. But I got one at the Philadelphia Penitentiary, which features the first, I guess it may not be the first dog in jail, but a dog that was put into jail in the Philadelphia Penitentiary where you can like go and travel. Now the thought process behind this dog, and this was like in the 1940s when the prison was first opening, was like they had a whole story behind it. Was the dog went to jail because it bit the mayor's wife. In reality, they put the dog in to cheer up the inmates and to give them some sort of companionship. But there was a whole backstory and there was a whole like dedication to this dog in the exhibit in the penitentiary of the first dog that was put into jail. So I have a shirt with that dog on it, which would probably go on the list. Once again, cool. sad animal story. But then my sad song shirt, and then probably this shirt, and there's a few others that I'm probably forgetting.
Oh yeah. This is going to be an interesting question because unfortunately the city's in the news today for bad reasons. But how would you pronounce? Have you ever been there, and how do you pronounce it?
I have not been there. I would like to go there. I've also, in terms of if we're going on a traveling thing, I've never been out of the country. That is something I have never left the country. I've been to a lot of states, but never been out of the country. I would like to at some point. But no, I have not been to Louisville, and I pronounce it Louisville. Is that
same here?
Louisville.
I mean, I've heard Louisville. I've heard Louisville, but I mean that's also because I'm from I've lived in the South, like I lived in North Florida for like 5 years, so Louisville is definitely a ways up there. But Louisville is how I say it. There was a question that popped up there. What animal do you think is the saddest animal?
So I am going to go, and I touched on this. It's my, how do I even show this? Let's see. Okay, so that's Laika, or a tattoo based upon Laika. So Laika was the first dog shot into space.
Right.
The idea was when there was the space race between the USSR and the USA, they could shoot somebody up, but they couldn't get somebody back down. So the USSR decided to send up a dog. And so they went to the animal shelter, brought out a bunch of dogs, saw which one was the most trainable, picked this dog named Laika. And it was a wonderful dog, and it made lots. They would go home with the cosmonauts and the kids would play with it. And the idea was they would shoot it up. And at the end of 6 days, because they couldn't get it back down, the food would run out. A sleeping pill would come out. It would eat the sleeping pill, die peacefully. So at the end of 6 days, they ran all these tests. They said it was a huge success and they had learned so much, and they would be the first country to send someone to the moon. As it turns out, we know that didn't happen. The truth behind it, which came out about like 20, 30 years later, was they never ran any of the tests. The dog actually died within 2 hours from heat exhaustion and panic. And it was just a complete cover up. And now there is a statue dedicated to it in Moscow. There's a bunch of songs. I highly recommend a song by Will Wagner called Laika, which is one of the saddest songs you'll ever hear, but a great song. But it's that by far is, to me, the saddest animal story, and the story of a brave little Russian dog.
I don't know why I'm laughing and smiling from this. It's just, I think it's more about like the fact that you're so obsessed with that very sad story.
Yeah.
So our friend Madison Marsh, who you trained in Hunger Games, who's just a fucking fantastic
District 3 forever. Let's go.
Honestly, those videos that you guys did for District 3 were the funniest thing ever. I thought, I just loved it just made me so happy. Like Hunger Games is one of my best experiences in Sequester. That's hands down.
It's some of the most fun I've ever had in Sequester as well. Like developing that story with them and Sam creating that incredible video, and just like it just kind of kept building. And I was like, well, what if you all just go missing? And then they were like, oh yeah, we like that. And then like when I put out the tweet, I didn't realize that like people would start tweeting them and be like, oh my God, are you okay? Like Louie's looking for you. What's wrong? And then they were messaging me like people are actually concerned. And I was like, oh, well, that's a problem. I didn't mean to actually like scare people. Like this is just supposed to be a fun bit, and people think like Madison's dead or something. But I was like, how do we go about this now without offending people? But yeah, it was fun. Come on, I have a very dark sense of humor, and I like spooky things, and I thought it would be
considering how insane that Hunger Games game went with the pre-gaming, while it was never that insane until the last 30 hours, is the funniest thing ever to me. But so do you sleep with just a sheet or with the comforter?
No sheet. I'm anti-sheet. I have the what do they call that? The main sheet, like underneath me, but I don't use a sheet. I just use a comforter. Is that crazy? I also only sleep in socks, but we know this. Socks forever.
Oh my God, that was just. I actually do want to rewatch that game. I hope that Real Roommate does a edit of it, because it's the best.
It was a great game. I've also never been more upset watching a game than that.
I felt so bad.
I threw my mouse across the room. I was so upset when they got voted out.
I don't think I've ever felt worse about anything in my entire life, because, like, as I told you before the game and during the game, my District 8 people were working with you. It's just the minor leagues. And
we didn't expect Madison to have an actual power outage, even though she was going to play in the dark. Our whole thing was we wanted to play in the dark because we wanted to make it seem like Lou had abducted them and locked them in a basement. But as it turned out, that was bad luck, because she had an actual power outage and was legitimately playing in the dark with terrible internet. And then, because she had bad internet, she wasn't in the rooms for rounds. And then she was an easy way to get voted out. And then when she was out, everybody was just like, well, I guess we'll vote out Connor too. And that was that. That was the end of all that work that we put in. But I'll say this, they are two very well-trained people now. They know how to play Sequester. So
I'm very excited to see her play tomorrow night.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Very excited for that.
This is a good question also. Ashley Keenan, Queen of Nodding asks, rank and rate the flavors of Capri Sun from least favorite to God tier.
So Pacific Cooler is always number one. If anybody asks me, Pacific Cooler is the go-to. I'd go Fruit Punch, maybe second. Somebody sent me a picture. Who sent me a picture? Maybe it was Kayla of the Capri Sun aisle the other day.
Yeah.
And there was lemonade, a lemonade Capri Sun. And I don't know how
They
I
had
feel
that when we
about
were
that.
kids, though, right? I think they had that.
Maybe. I don't think I would like a lemonade Capri Sun. I don't know. But here's the thing. I like Capri Sun. I don't drink it if I'm not on sequester, right? Like that's more of my sequester bit. And especially after Friday, like I drank an obscene amount. I drank basically
the
a
clip
full box.
of me when your confessional when you were like, I'm like hopped up on Capri Sun.
It was. I was like, I need to like chill out because I came into a room like because it was during the roulette round where it was basically you were just run for safety, and I was in a room alone for that entire time, and it went on for about 30 minutes. And I think I drank like 3 or 4 Capri Suns just in that time. And when it went on, I was just like hopped up on so much sugar that I just ran into a room screaming. And then Jamie was like, calm down. I was like, sorry. The Capri Sun, it got to me. And I had a tummy ache. Tommy's tummy hurt afterwards, but we survived.
Talking about Tommy and his tummy. Tommy's got a question. This is a very interesting question to me, I think, because there have been some surprising moments on Sequester, and you've been on the air for, I'd say, a lot of them.
Yeah, it's a while now. There's one that immediately comes to mind. I think it's probably, I have to imagine it's the most famous Podquester moment, I guess, and that was during Shadows when Sharifa winked and went off camera. That was the most shook I have ever been. Because I just didn't think it was feasible until then. And maybe I was being silly. And here's another reason that I, not the best sequester player is I'll believe anything you tell me. I'm very gullible. I take people at their word. So she was like, no, I'm not playing. I just have bad internet. And I was like, okay, bet, you're fine. And then all of a sudden, the room went live. She winked. It took me a good minute to realize
you're the last one that be able to figure it out. Like Blizzard figures it out like 3 seconds later.
Yeah.
Well,
and I was like, wait a second, why is she in the game? And then I went back and I was like, oh, she's not here anymore. And then, I was stunned. So that would definitely be, I'm sure there's more that I'm forgetting, but that was definitely the one that will stick in my mind basically forever.
I think it's like,
and also Winners at War 2, when everybody answered nothing, will always stick with me. My jaw absolutely dropped. The fact that they pre-gamed so hard that they pre-gamed the actual twist that they weren't going to answer the question and everybody would just say nothing for an answer. That stunned me.
Yeah, that was insane. And Josh still thought he was in that alliance at that point.
Yeah.
I have a question that I did not write down, but I really want to ask you this, because since you have seen at this point almost thousands of people play Sequester, probably, as have most people, but who do you want to see play again that's only played like once or twice?
Oh, good question. Huh. I am a big fan of Dallas, who played the Influencer Mini. And then he came back and he played, what did he play recently? I think he played an All-Stars.
The
last
All-Stars. Yeah.
Dallas, I am a big fan of his, and he is someone who, I don't know if he'll necessarily always be in the Sequester community because he has his own Twitch thing, but he's someone that I feel like could be huge if he stuck around and played multiple games and played private games, because I find him to always be so entertaining and so fun and such an aggressive player, and the kind of aggressive player that I like to be, that I enjoy seeing it. So I'm sure, once again, give it more thought, I would think of a lot more answers, but that's somebody that immediately. Oh, and Karishma, obviously. Karishma has my entire heart. The fact that she entrusted me to prepare her for Sequester and then went out and destroyed people beyond my furthest abilities. And
she was incredible.
She ran that game. That's another one. I've never been more nervous watching a game than watching her play, because I felt so responsible, and we had spent so much time going through all the twists and stuff that I was I just really hope nothing comes up that she's not prepared for.
She reached out to you
for everything. So I reached out to basically everybody just asking if they wanted to be on Podquester the day after. And she specifically asked, she was like, I know nothing about this game. Can you help? And I was like, sure. What do you need? And she was like, can we get on a Zoom? And we Zoomed for like 5 hours going through Twist and then did it again the next day. Like she was so beyond dedicated to doing well for the game. And it showed because she did amazing. And then, I would like to see her utilize that again because I'm sure she'll be able to do great.
She's incredible.
And also just a fantastic human. Like the fact, like I still like, it wasn't like after we were done, we like split ways. We still talk on a regular basis. Like she's a wonderful person. I love Karishma. So I would definitely like to see her play again too.
Yeah. Like she's actually one of the people that I reached out to before 5:30. And she actually gave me some advice too, which is really nice. Like, yeah, like I've always had a lot of love and respect for her. I was like, you're good people. I could tell. And I met her at, I talked to her during Jordan Kilish's like birthday Zoom party back like 3 months ago, and that was nice too. But yeah, awesome. Let's get ready to wrap up. I've got your stuff right here. Yeah, how I remember because I love the story of how you came up with that Twitter handle.
The Twitter handle, it's very old. I had created a Twitter just because I was gonna like rank Survivor players when I was like, I don't know, probably like 17, 18. I just wanted to rank all the Survivor players from like best to worst or least favorite to favorite. Obviously, number one would be Frank Garrison because he's the best Survivor of all time. No? Anybody? No? Okay. Maybe it's just me. We got my Samburu buff right over there. But anyway, so that was the initial idea. Just like that was all I was gonna do. And I never used it. And then I just, who'd have thunk that the Twitter would be important at some point? And then years and years later, all of a sudden I needed a Twitter, and here it is. Rank and Raid is, something that I'm using. But I'm happy with it. People remember it, so
that's cool.
Not too bad.
Yeah. Let me see what else, because I'll start wrapping up my stuff. So yeah, if you guys are interested, Mark Remeets World is back with a really great episode that I just launched yesterday with Mary Kwiatkowski from RHAP fame and Kowski Cast. And she was in the RHAP Sequester game and did pretty darn well. We talk about episode 15 of Boy Meets World, which is one with Kathy Ireland, where Eric becomes a model. And it's really, really funny. And it's a great episode. She's a great guest, and I'm excited to have her again when she comes on again. And on Friday, we got MarkTalk Brant Steele. If you want to be in it, let me know. Louie, do you want to make your return?
Yes, absolutely. How did I do the first time?
You got, I think, like 17th place.
Oh, well, yeah, I got to make my return now.
All right, you'll be making a return this week.
It's a comeback. This is my comeback.
Yeah, it's your comeback. And when you play again on Sequester as Bluey, just you painted in blue.
Oh, I love that actually. That I would do. That sounds like who posted that? Did Ryan? I think that was a Ryan Taylor thing. He tweeted, "How many members of the Blue Man Group do you think have played Sequester?" Probably say like 3 or 4, but I will.
I mean, it sounds like a distinct possibility. I've met a couple of them because I did a play where the director was one of the stage managers for Blue Man Group. So like I saw them like doing Blue Man Group school in like Tribeca one day, like at the like headquarters. It was pretty freaking insane. I loved it. And starting on Monday, all throughout October, I'm having MarkTalk Horror Movie Day, where we will watch a movie beforehand and then talk about it on camera for like 20, 30 minutes. Preferably something I've not seen before or haven't seen in a while, which is why I'm very, very intrigued by Behind the Mask. I'll find out what day works for you, Louie, and we'll figure that out. And of course, if you want to help the show, there's another way you can do that. I hate doing this, but it doesn't hurt. Venmo me at Mark-Levy. Every dollar helps. It helps keep this thing going on multiple channels, and keeps it fun and goofy. And I used that feature specifically, actually, of having a lot of people on my StreamYard last night for the game talk for Johnny Stockton's game, which you can also see if you want to watch that one. If you want to, and of course, tweet me at MarkLevy85. Louie, thank you so much for doing this today, man.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun. Anytime you want me, I will be here.
Awesome, my friend. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
See you out there.